Medusa Meditations 2 of the once used to be the Owl Project, now Project Shira, and it's gone through at least 4 variable stages of evolution, and it will continue to shift from stage or phase to phase, stage to stage. Currently, Meditations Medusa 2 is a combination of 4 key themes, the first one being meditations as in Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism. The second core concept is manifestation, which is the continuous evolution of the project. The third is Medusa, the tale of the fallen, tragedy of Roman Greek mythology. And the fourth, I believe, has to do with meridians, so the SMR related to them. And so that's the medium and format to which we are going to be presenting our project. Now, this is a broadcast that happens typically every, I believe, Friday mornings. I used to run a lot more during plenty more other days during the week, but now I've only narrowed it down to once per week on Friday mornings because I can no longer afford to, and also I don't want to have that level of output anymore until, at least for the time being. Having said that, we can find that whenever we do release an episode, again, it's about 6 to 7 a.m. in the morning, every Friday morning, and on a weekly basis on Spotify, on Twitch. Right, currently we don't do Twitch or YouTube, only YouTube and Spotify as podcasts, which you can listen on the commute as you're going to work or so on and so forth, and that's about it. Or on your leisure time, whenever you wish. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this episode is part of a current series, which is series 12, which if you go to YouTube on the playlist, you'll find that this is season 12. This project started probably over a decade ago and only really manifested roughly in about 2017. It started to burgeon into fruition. So today, what we want to cover then is probably going to be the last 2 episodes of Medusa, season 12, and season 12 is Retribution, which has a lot to do with the mythological, religious, spiritual symbolism, representations, and personification. So these are very abstract core themes that have a lot to do with ethical personas and symbolism. So today's episode doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just the way the series started, and it was therefore dubbed Retribution. However, today has nothing to do with that. The next episode today and the one coming next week is going to be covering, I wouldn't say it's material, but it's like a digital component that requires logistical coverage. And what that is just my phone. I'm trying to get rid of certain apps on my phone, and the main priority there is something that I've planned to do for at least anywhere between 6 months ago all the way straight up to about 3 or 5 years ago. And what that is I want to delete many of the apps that are on my phone for security vulnerabilities. Now, what I will say, by the way, if you can't hear me, it's because, once again, I do live in community housing, and as a result, I have at least 8 neighbors surrounding, so I have to keep the volume really down for a lot of different reasons. So if you want to actually hear what I'm saying, I would encourage you, highly encourage you to increase the volume all the way up to about at least 80%, and to also increase the app, whether it's on Spotify or on YouTube, to roughly 80% as well, minimum. So you gotta increase the device as well as the app up to 80%. Having said that, I would say this will not be the core presentation. After we go beyond Medusa to season 12 and Medusa 2 from Retribution, will be most likely engaging in a very different manner, and you may see in the future what that has to do with. It's not going to be in person anymore, most likely. But anyways, regardless, for today's episode, I just want to do a little bit of a very short, quick update the kind of situation, practice the introduction, and then get through to what you see on the screen, which is a variety of apps which I'm going to read to you. Again, the main highlight is that I've been wanting to, at least for 2-3 years now, I wanted to clear out on a regular routine basis every 3 to 6 months or so, every half year or so, all the apps, the mobile apps on your phone. And you should get into habit of doing this, because what this does is it allows a very large security vulnerability when you have apps on your phone that are not used often and therefore not updated. And if they're not used often and they're not updated, what ends up happening is that there are a lot of these backdoor permissions that are allowed and security vulnerabilities to your device, and that allows for ransomware, malware, all sorts of other cybersecurity attacks and issues to play your devices, and everyone's on mobile devices today in this day and age. So it's very important to make sure that you keep the integrity of your device secure. So what I'm going to do is just going to read to you what's actually on the screen, or this, my left is your right. So this is my phone, and what you can see here are six screenshots of different interfaces of all the apps that I have downloaded, and these go for about 3 years ago. That's when I wanted to do a video on this, but actually, or episode, or podcast episode, or whatever, some form of media. But actually, I wanted to do this. I had these apps, and these apps are way back from like 6 years ago. So I'm just going to read to you what some of them are that I won't be able to get into detail, but I'm probably going to cover a little bit basis about why I downloaded it. And it should be very obvious, right? Because I will tell you the purpose of these apps and their functionality from a developer standpoint, what it provides to the consumer. So from a SaaS or software as a service, this is from a tech perspective what the app is offering to the mobile user. So I'm going to start off at the very top and have, so Prism Live Studio up there, I'm going to keep that. Something that I want to delete off the first screenshot you can tell is 2 apps, and the first one is called AfreecaTV. Right. So this is the first one. You can see it all the way up there. And the first app I want to delete here is probably this, as well as I think that one. What that translates to is AfreecaTV is a South Korean live streaming app that I don't ever use on this phone. This is a very old phone, and it probably takes up about 100 MB of space, megabytes of space. Another one is a editor here that I pointed out, and that's a video editor. I don't use it anymore because this phone no longer does recordings. This is a very old, like Samsung Galaxy A5 phone, so I don't do any recordings on this anymore for live streaming or anything like that, or live streams, video recordings, or podcast episodes. I don't use this anymore for multimedia purposes. So I can delete at least the Yoki, the Smew, and the AfreecaTV. That will free up at least 300 MB of space storage on my device. But in addition to that, it will also, again, remove security vulnerabilities from this device. So that's for this one, and then we're going to go to the next one. So the next one here, we have something that I want to delete here, not as often because these ones are still intriguing. One of them is binaural beats. It has to do with like music that you can use for sleeping and resting. But I think the core one here that I really want to delete is something that I see here has to do with like a habit. So 12-minute image recognition. So there's 2 of these here. One here, one here. And I don't have any purpose for them because one has to do with like a barcode scanner, or image scanner, and the other one is a course that teaches you digital marketing. And I don't really need a course on digital marketing, but I'll take a look. And the main reason why is actually because this is when I downloaded it, I thought it's like it had some course content, but most of it is actually locked behind a paywall. So you have see here, there's at least 4 apps. 4 apps I probably want to delete. One is touching on the point of it looks like to be posture. So exercises for keeping my posture. I already have a large understanding of what exercise to be done to keep my back straight. So in terms of exercise, I don't think I need any more information, especially since I'm outdated and I don't have any use for it. But another one here is the one that covers like love while parenting, and that one has to do with like basically as a family, how can you manage your relationship with your husband and your wife, with your spouse or partner, while at the same time taking care of your children and your kids. So at the end of the day, it's like a family app. But the family app, I've come to realize in my recent years, I'm actually ahead of the curve on it. So that's something I really need to learn about. Maybe I'll take a look at it before I delete it. And then the third app is, it seems to be sectograph, and I don't know what that means. But, honestly, it's not necessary. As well as BlackNote, it seems to be here. So BlackNote seems to be like a productivity app for keeping track of your notes. I don't need something like that. Okay. Daily habits down here, so I can delete. I think there's like 5 apps just on this screen alone. Like 5 apps. And that again removes security vulnerabilities for apps that are not updated and not used, as well as freeing up space. Okay, 4.3. Okay. This is a big one. We can probably remove at least 8 apps if we want to here. And of the 8 apps, I would say there's, probably 4 of them have to do with fitness. So one covers stretching exercises, another flexibility, stretching, flexibility, balance. And one covers just like home DIY, do-it-yourself home workouts. And the third covers like a 6-pack, so core. Like it's very sensational. I think there are plenty of other avenues if you want to learn how to exercise. You don't need these 3 apps. And so I can get rid of those 3 for sure. And then see down here, there are some apps here that I really do not need, because they cover like note-taking productivity, which is dumb. I never use this phone for note-taking at all. This phone, right, there's like 1, 2, 3. It's like one's for like writing notes, another one is to like voice notes to record on your phone. But like I've tested it and it sucks. That app sucks. It's not useful at all because it doesn't record what I say properly. It doesn't transcribe it properly. It has to be active. So a lot of these apps were just experimental, and they're also very outdated. They're outdated by at least 3 years. With the developments in AI that we have today, artificial intelligence, there's no reason why I should be using an app that's 3 or 4 years old, because the apps we have today are way better at transcribing our voice. So again, another 3 apps can go, another 3 apps can go. And that kind of summarizes everything. So everything up here that you see is, I think at least 20%. So 1 in 5 of the apps on the screen I can delete and remove from my phone. And it's the oldest phone that I have currently that is functional in commission, that I still use on a daily basis for the household security. So this phone I actually use for managing certain permissions within my household. I'm not going to say much more than that because it's a security matter, but that's why it's useful. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete them once I'm off. I'm done this video. And the next video we're going to cover is my second phone. So there's one phone here. Okay. Right. But then there's also this one as well. Okay. So next episode we cover this. So I'll see you all there. Thank you for tuning in to a very